What is going on, everyone? Dr. Tiger here, coming to you with my first trading recap video on this channel. If you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on this video to give me some feedback. This is going to be my first trade that I'm reviewing, and I did take an L on the Nasdaq today. Let me review why that is. So on the daily, I was overall pretty bullish. We inversed this huge bearish gap right here, and we traded into it, respected it, was getting a nice leg out of it. And so on the daily, I was overall bullish, but we did have some daily draws. We had this draw higher. We had this daily bearish gap to target as well. So those two draws higher were things that I wanted to see as targets going into the day. We also had London high above us, but that did get taken out pre-market, and I'm going to show you that in a second. But on the 4 hour, relatively speaking, we were still overall pretty bullish. We tapped into these 4 hour gaps and respected them very nicely. So that was some pretty nice bullish confirmation. But overnight, in the previous sessions, Asia and London, we did chop for a while, but we did create some nice chop lows and chop highs. We had let me mark out London high prior to New York session. London high was up here on the hourly. And so we did have that to consider. We had London low as well that I marked out, and I have it marked here because that will kind of be important as I explain what happened today. But we also had this hourly sell side that I wanted to see targeted, this hourly low. And so I marked out both of those lows, wanting to see those lows targeted. Pre-market, what ended up happening was we actually at 9 a.m., I believe London high was right here. And pre-market, we did sweep out London high. So off the open, I was open to a high probability short if it presented itself. But the only problem was that I was a little concerned about was these 5-minute gaps here that I would see potentially us respecting off the open and then ripping higher to take out the draws that I had mentioned previously, the draws higher. But at the open, and I'm going to just identify it here. Hold on real quick. Okay, sorry. Okay, at the open, this was market open right here. Prior to market open, we had this 3-minute gap that was traded into and respected. This is on the 1 minute, but we also had created a 3-minute bearish gap right here, and we traded into it, and off the open, we ended up respecting it, dumping. And I saw some people took the trade right off open, entering off this 1-minute candle closure. And that overall would be a pretty discretional trade. I think that this was a good trade to take considering the huge break of structure that happened to the downside. We were tapping into a 5-minute bullish gap during this time, and this was also probably around equilibrium of this range. As you can see, it's around, like, it just tapped equilibrium of this range. However, something that I kind of realized after this trade played out is that this trade overall was like a pretty high time frame AMD model. We had all of this accumulation right here, all of this accumulation. We were just chopping throughout this entire rectangle, and then we end up sweeping the highs of that chop pre-market. And what do we know about AMD models? We accumulate, we manipulate, and then we distribute to the downside. So after sweeping London high, we end up dumping, and that was just the distribution. Something that I journaled and that I'm now going to reflect on is that when we have AMD models, I really shouldn't be too concerned about 5-minute gaps. This would have been a nice trade targeting London low for around a 1.5 RR had I entered at candle close. So I did end up missing that trade. I ended up patiently waiting, though, because I know that once we have a key liquidity sweep, like sweeping London low, then we could have a high probable long setup as well, especially since I had a bullish bias. So I end up waiting. We kind of just chop. We end up re-sweeping this low during the 10 a.m. macro, during the 9:50, 10:10 macro. And so at this point, I was pretty open to a long if it presented itself. And so we did have this key sell side level here, but if we were going to reject strongly, then I knew that this would be a high probable setup that I wanted to take. So something that I marked out on the lower time frame on the 1 minute on Nasdaq was this 1 minute gap, and I wanted to see it inversed. I saw that we had it took 8 minutes to inverse the gap, and I think that was a key flaw behind my trade, which is I did take the 1 minute inverse, but I put my stop below the inversion low. I put my TP at an unfilled 15-minute gap at the time, which is where my TP, where my take profit was right here for around a 1.5 RR. And I think my main problem with this trade here is that we were really showing resistance to go higher when we were breaking through this gap. And we also had this key sell side level right here as well. I think that was really important. On the higher time frames, at the time that I entered, it was around 10:04, 10:05. On the higher time frames, and by higher, this is still low time frame, but on the 3 minute, we were chopping. On the 5 minute, let's see as well, we were also chopping on the 5 minute. So after that huge dump, I really should have been cautious and told myself, look, we are chopping and it's improbable to trade and chop, and therefore I'm going to wait until we see something happen. Because I had this key sell side that I wanted to see taken, and that's exactly what ended up happening. I ended up getting stopped out. My break-even point was somewhere over here, but it didn't matter because I ended up getting stopped out. And so I'm just going to get rid of this. And then after we chop for a little bit longer, we end up, why can't I delete this? Okay. After we chop for a little bit longer, we end up re-sweeping this chop low, kind of like another AMD setup. We have this accumulation, we manipulate downwards, sweep this sell side, and then get a nice strong inversion to the upside. Look at this 1 minute candle. This candle is, it says it's only 36 points, but relative to all of these other candles, this is a really strong bullish candle. And so entering upon candle close there would have been the move. I saw a lot of people took that trade. I saw some people took the 2 minute inversion with their stop below. In this case, I would have had it below the candle body low and my TP at the unfilled 15-minute gap. I also was interested in targeting equilibrium of this range, and equilibrium was right here. So if that were to have been the case, then it would have been for around a 1-to-1 if I entered at the 1 minute candle close there. So that would have been a nice easy 1-to-1. It might have been break even if my break even was right here, but I mean it doesn't matter because I didn't end up taking this trade. But yeah, there were some valid setups today. There was this valid setup, this setup as well also seemed pretty valid. We tapped into this 15-minute gap. Let me just show you the 15 minutes so that you're not confused. Yeah, so see this huge 15-minute gap? Oh my goodness, a humongous 15-minute gap right here. We tap into this 15-minute gap. I tried longing to it. I failed. I kind of just had a bad entry. My idea was right, but I entered in chop and it cooked me. So we end up tapping the 15-minute gap at that point, and we tapped into the 15-minute equilibrium as well. I mean, I did mention that, but we did tap the 15-minute equilibrium as seen here. And so at that point, I was interested in shorts because off the open, we dumped, how much did we dump? We dumped 150 points, almost at this wick low, it was like 200 points. And so I was open to a high probable short if it presented itself. And it did end up presenting itself. It was a little later in the session, but it did end up presenting. And I'm on yesterday's price action. Bear with me. Okay, it was right here. So I was open to a high probable short. I will say at this time, all of our key draws were taken. London high was taken up here. And then London low and the sell side were taken as well. So really any trades were kind of cooked at this time. But if we were to have taken another trade, or if we were to just to identify a high probability setup, we had this 2 minute, a strong 2 minute inversion right here. I think we might have had the 3 minute as well. Yeah, we had a 2 minute, 3 minute, and 1 minute inversion at this candle. We could have entered short after, again, we tapped the 15 minute gap in an equilibrium. We had a strong break of structure to the downside, and we swept all these chop highs as well. So you could think of that as a liquidity sweep as well. And this was also during the 1050 macro. So with all those things in mind, this was also a valid trade to enter. I did not take it, but we would have had our stop below the inversion high and our TP at this wick, which would have been around a 2.7R trade. That's a pretty nice RR trade. But overall, hope this was helpful for you. Hope that this kind of explains my trade recap. Again, my main trade was kind of just a flop because I entered in chop, and what I would have wanted to see was a little bit less wiki price action and then a strong break of structure to the upside in order to be convinced in longs to that 15-minute gap. However, that did not happen because we ended up chopping our way through the gap, and that does not really make our IFBG valid. I trade reversals, I trade IFBGs, and that trade would not be valid because we just chopped through it. So hope this helps. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.